Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Build Series. I'm your host, Cole Delbick. Today, we have Drag Race royalty in the building. Yes, Queen of Reveals, Sasha Velour is here. The global drag superstar is packing up her wigs and rose petals to head out on her debut solo tour, Smoke and Mirrors, later this month. Velour is traveling across North America to serve up some drag excellence with 13 innovative and boundary-breaking numbers directed, produced, and choreographed by the Queen herself. We're going to talk all about this new show, her upcoming documentary series that's in the works, and maybe get a little Drag Race tea while we're at it. But before we bring Sasha out on stage, let's take a look what we can expect from Smoke and Mirrors. Let's give it up for Sasha Velour, everybody.
Hi. How's everyone doing?
Thank you so much for being here, and congrats on your first solo tour. It's amazing.
I'm so excited. It's kind of surreal. I've always wanted to put on productions like this and get to travel the world, and it's really happening. I can't wait.
I want to take a second to address this major look in front of me, this jeweled red fantasy. Tell us what you're giving us today.
Okay, well, this is a fabulous creation by my friend, the designer Diego Montoya, who's a Brooklyn artist. This actually was created for the season 9 premiere party, and it since has been reshaped for my new figure since she's learned a few things in the last couple of years.
Well, you look amazing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
You know, since you were crowned on this show, it's been so exciting to watch your journey as a fan because you've so deeply invested in your own art, but also that of other drag performers. And this show really feels like the pinnacle of all this hard work. It's 2 hours, 2 acts, 13 amazing musical numbers that sort of blend audio and visual magic with your own sort of unique approach, and of course, some gag-worthy looks. So tell us about the show and sort of why you wanted to bring this experience to your fans now.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a huge fan of drag. Like, when I go see a drag show, when I see amazing drag performances, it gives me, like, the will to keep fighting, to keep thriving, to stay alive, to exist in this troubling world and fill it with beauty and love. So I'm always trying to create shows that do that for people, that do that for our community. This show it's a bunch of different performances, and each drag performance, it's a piece of performance art that lasts a couple minutes. It's like a miniature film, a miniature play. You can tell so much and convey so many stories with a lip sync, and I try to do that in as many different ways as I possibly can. Smoke and Mirrors is about all my different selves, and those need different costumes, different hair, different surprises, different dramas, and I really just try to cram as much into one evening as you possibly can, and I think in the chaos, but also the harmony that ensues, that's like, I'm finally getting to really introduce myself to people in a real way, on my own terms.
And we're about a week out from the debut show. How are you feeling?
I'm nervous. You know, I've done this performance, I've done Smoke and Mirrors a couple times now. We did a 2-week residency at New York Live Arts here in the city. I did a tour of Australia and one-off performances in London and in Los Angeles. And every time, I'm changing things. I just can't help myself. I feel like it's my responsibility as an artist who gets this platform, who gets these opportunities, to not just keep delivering the same thing, but to try to improve it, to workshop it, to rehearse it, to go back to the studio and make things. So the Smoke and Mirrors that's coming at you in a week is different than the one that I did feels like 3 weeks ago. And I can't wait to see what people think.
Before we get too much into the show, I want to sort of talk about a moment that pretty much broke the internet this weekend, which I assume that you've seen. For those who haven't, on SNL this weekend, Kate McKinnon as Elizabeth Warren pulled a Sasha Velour, as they say, and did a rose petal wig reveal. What was your reaction when you saw this?
I lost my hair. I thought it was so incredible. Like, to be referenced as like a touchstone of queer culture is definitely a dream of mine. The fact that they not only reference this moment, but then, which we're just gonna watch over and over again right here, I'm like, yes, look at the passion in those eyes. That is how you do a reveal, honey. The fact that they not only did this, 'cause she's wearing a bald cap, that's dedication, but they cut to a clip of my partner Johnny and my dad and Eureka O'Hara sobbing. I thought, like, wow, they really are going for this reference. I really appreciated it. And I gotta say, it's like the greatest gift to get this publicity on Saturday Night
best
Live
press you could
when
ask
I'm
for.
trying, to hustle my little butt off to get this tour on the road. So I'm just so thankful.
Why do you think that so emotional lip sync has sort of endured in our cultural memory all these years later? Because, how do you see that performance now with some perspective? Like, why do you think Drag Race fandom so sort of embraced that moment?
I don't know. You guys tell me. I think people want to be entertained and surprised, and it provided that. But it also wasn't. It wasn't random. Like I really, as ridiculous as pulling off your wig and your gloves and making rose petals fly out onto the stage is, I had like a real serious meaning behind why I was doing those things, and for me, it made sense with the song. And I think hopefully that's why it's endured, is that it's not just a surprising gag, but it had heart and it had meaning behind it. And I think when you can combine those things and create something that's entertaining, but also like personal and real and honest, it's like, it's really just about having so many feelings that you can't control yourself, and you end up like coming undone in front of everyone, and really, who can't relate to that?
And this sort of, the number will be in Smoke and Mirrors in a different sort of retooled version. Was that always a question that it was going to be in there? Like, what's the rose petal budget this time around? How are we going to see it?
I'm actually using the same rose petals that I rescued from the dirty stage of the season 9 finale. They are silk rose petals from Michael's craft store.
Wow.
Actually, because I come out with this is real behind the scenes tea. I come out with a real rose, of course, and then I have silk ones in my gloves and in my hair. But the real rose petals get mixed in and start rotting in the bag. So if I'm not careful, I'll like smell this stench of like rotting rose petals from inside the wig. I have to go through and separate all of those bad little roses out. But no, I was conflicted for a while because it's the only song in the show that I did not select for myself. Obviously, like a lip sync for your life, you're given whatever song they've chosen and you have to make it work for yourself. So it didn't have I didn't feel the same ownership over it at first, and I've gotten over that. Like things come to you through different reasons. I'm embracing that people have loved it. I think the fact that I didn't choose it is probably an asset. It's like our work gets better when we bring other people into the mix, other ideas into the mix. I would not have selected an 80s Whitney Houston song, but thank God someone did, because I love the result, and I really enjoy getting to perform it. The role that it has in the show is a little different because it well, I don't want to give too much away, but the first act of Smoke and Mirrors is really about it's really about the phenomenon of becoming famous through being on a reality TV show. And So Emotional appears in the show kind of to hopefully bring a little mirror to the audience about how much people need to see the kind of drag that they've grown familiar with on television. And owning a version of myself that appeared on TV, but also saying, this isn't all of me, and I want you to applaud this alongside all these other things as well. We are so many different things, all of us. Everyone's a little fluid, and I'm just trying to dramatize it and let people know how beautiful it can be.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the name Smoke and Mirrors, because I imagine it's sort of referencing the illusory elements of drag and lip syncing, but I know you're trying to pull the curtain back a little bit more here, especially using all this technical wizardry that's so effective. So what are you wanting fans to sort of like walk away from the show? And what were you trying to communicate with Smoke and Mirrors?
Well, I never try to, make people walk away with just one interpretation. Definitely for me, I hope people walk away with some feeling of connection with me. That's what theater is for. That's what drag is for. I want people to feel like we've had some kind of personal exchange. Those are kind of rare in the world, and we gotta look for them and create those moments. And hopefully, at the end of the day, hopefully just the scale of my ambition and determination with this crazy project, the level of complexity that you can see goes into the planning and creation of a drag show that normally people think of as being something very lighthearted. And it can be that. It can be both. I hope that inspires people to give their all with whatever it is that they do. No matter what people are asking them for, no matter what the standards of the industry or the art form are, people need to get in touch with their own mad ambition and passion and really like bring that to life no matter what kind of resources they can find. And that's what Smoke and Mirrors is about. It's really a celebration of theatrics, you know, in an old-fashioned way, in the sense that like it's a when you are able to do something theatrical and over the top, that is a testament to like stick-to-itiveness, to determination, and it brings people together.
You know, everything that I see you present is so sort of well crafted and thoughtful, but I was reading that the show is sort of born out of sort of an onstage mishap that you sort of toy with in the show a bit. So tell us a little bit about the origins of the show and maybe that moment that inspired what we see here.
I was doing a performance of Barbra Streisand Gotta Move, where I have backup dancers of myself. This is, you know, Smoke and Mirrors is very produced. We went to a green screen studio, but back in the old day, I used to film everything in front of a white bed sheet hanging in my living room with my boyfriend, like, holding a cell phone, and me being like, hold it higher, I don't like that angle. Sorry, what was the question?
The mishap on stage.
Oh, yes. And so this video was a required element of putting this performance on. So I'd be traveling around the world trying to get them to play my tech so I can make these magical moments for people with my little homemade technology. And I was doing a show in Brazil, and the video started playing double speed with no sound. And I just knew, like, well, we tried it again, and it still was not working. There was a language barrier on top of everything, and I just ran backstage and grabbed a microphone and started improvising and talking about, you know, how imperfection is part of the magic of drag, and welcoming the experience that they were witnessing as part of, you know, performativity that we can accept into the night's proceedings. And ultimately, they were not able to make it work. After like 4 attempts, I'd been on stage the entire time. The video restarted 3 times. Every time the audience was excited, and I ended up really just performing these reveals because I had 3 wigs stacked on my head, 2 costumes, like a scarf wrapped around my face, sunglasses. It was clear I was doing reveals. So I ended up doing them to a drum roll and much applause at the end of my kind of lecture on the meaning and spirit of drag. And I walked off stage, and I could have felt like it was a disaster, but instead I had the sneaking suspicion that it was actually like the greatest piece of entertainment I had ever done. Like, you know, I think I just stumbled onto a better performance than the one I had planned. And I thought about that because so much of what people love about drag are those human moments. We dabble in perfection, we're always trying to conjure an image, but it's the fact that we are human, that it does take effort, and sometimes it's not perfect, that brings people back again to this art form. It demystifies all of the kind of toxic perfectionism of mainstream pop culture. It needs to. And so I wanted to have those disasters built in to the show. And you know, because I am a bit of a perfectionist, it's also a bit of a trick because it means if anything goes wrong during the show, unplanned, the audience is genuinely confused about whether it's one of my tricks or not. And that happened recently. We had an issue with a curtain, and I had to go off stage and come back on, and I was talking to people after, and they actually didn't know that it had been a mistake. And I thought, yet again, this is like a perfectionist's best dream. You just incorporate the disaster ahead of time, and then no one has any clue.
I mean, I love that you're sort of embracing that imperfection, because I imagine with sort of the fandom that Drag Race has accrued and being a public figure and being a winner, there's sort of immense pressure that you face to live up to certain expectation, sort of in public or in real life or when you come across fans. So how have you sort of faced that pressure? And it seems like you've really sort of incorporated that into your art form, which I think is so, I commend you.
Well, I put the pressure on myself to begin with. So it starts from me. It's like, it's all a fantasy. This isn't, the pressure, the the excitement, the devotion to drag. It's all part of a fantasy that literally all of you are helping to co-sign right now, where queer people are allowed to live lives of celebrities in our queer bodies, looking and sounding as queer as we do. And I'm thankful for the pressure, because it's a sign of that group effort that has put us in these spaces and given us these microphones and this access to the camera. And so I'm gonna just keep trying to rise to the occasion and try to keep it true to the way that we do things too.
And I know this journey hasn't always been easy for you. Earlier this year, you faced some health struggles, and you really bravely opened up in a recent People magazine article, and were super candid with your fans about what had happened. Why choose to sort of open yourself up like that now, and what has the reaction been?
I didn't know how to share the fact. I had to pull away from some social media presence, from some work to deal with a health issue, and it didn't fit with the narrative of fabulosity that I wanted to put forward. And the more I thought about it, I realized, it's funny doing a show called Smoke and Mirrors, having confessions on stage about my struggles with anxiety, with depression, my sense of self, my desire to have a more healthy relationship with myself. All that comes out on stage on Smoke and Mirrors, and yet I was still hiding over the fact that I was struggling and exhausted and feeling like I needed to overcompensate still. And one night on stage, I decided to share the fact that I had just had surgery, which was important to me. It felt cathartic to share with people, because I really wasn't sure how people were going to receive it, if they even wanted to hear those kind of details about my life. And the response has been really encouraging, because I see that we really are all in this together. It's like everyone knows what it's like to not feel like you can do the things that you care about or that you want to do or that you must do for your work or to make a living or for your family or community or whatever. And I think there isn't a simple answer. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be honest about what you're feeling with the people around you in your life and with yourself. I haven't been that good about that this year. And I in my desire to do better with myself, hopefully the message that I'm saying out loud so that I'll hear it will mean something to someone else too. And I think it has. So I'm just gonna try to be more honest. I don't really know how it's gonna filter into my gorgeous Instagram feed, but maybe there'll be some kind of, dedication to infection and to recovery.
No, I mean, thank you so much for opening up, because I think it does resonate with a lot of people. And something that I've appreciated always about your art is that, it's rooted in cultural and political conversations, but also in your own sort of personal struggles that sort of touch so many other people. And I know this show itself touches on sort of queer identity, depression and grief, and a lot of other maybe tough subjects that you wouldn't maybe expect to encounter in a drag show. So what are some things that you want to tackle with this show, or you're hoping to sort of bring to light with this show?
Like you said, I think those relationships with yourself, with dealing with grief. I talk about my relationship with my mom. I talk about mental health. A lot of drag is about our relationships with ourselves, and that's, I think, probably the biggest story of Smoke and Mirrors, and the way that my relationship with my mom also lets me know about myself. That relationship and my experiences with her have shaped me as a queen and as a person, given me my work ethic, all those things. And I want to talk openly about those things. When I started doing drag here in New York and started my show Nightgowns in Brooklyn, right away, I kind of didn't know what to do with the microphone at first. I was like, I don't have puns and jokes, so I guess I'm just gonna tell you how I'm feeling, and people responded to it, and I kind of built like the culture of Nightgowns and my voice as a drag queen around just being really honest with people and trying to, because of the construct of a stage and the lights and the drag, trying to weave just those kind of raw thoughts about what I'm feeling, what I'm dealing, what I'm struggling with, into some kind of storyline, some kind of narrative, some kind of lesson, even if it's 10 different lessons that you get interpreted into drag lip syncs. I'm always trying to do that so that it's not just the crisis, but also the one strategy of the transcendent escape. I'm always a magician, I guess, at heart.
No, I mean, that strategy definitely holds true for nightgowns, which I was saying backstage still holds like the best drag night that I've ever experienced. I mean, so many different types of drag performers on that stage. And I was so sort of impressed with you that you invested your winnings and your time after having such sort of a platform with the show into this endeavor that sort of creates space for the underrepresented. Was that always sort of clear for you going after the show that you wanted to create that space?
Oh yeah, that was always my goal with appearing on Drag Race, with expanding my platform in any way. Yeah, I'm really committed to drag as an art form. And for me, the future that we need to be actively fighting for and creating isn't just about individual success and grandeur. It's really about redefining the art form so that there are more opportunities for everyone. Specifically, making sure that who can do drag and what kind of drag is seen and accepted and celebrated continues to expand. We must have drag kings celebrated alongside drag queens. We must have trans, non-binary, female performers celebrated right and put in the spotlight. Some of the best drag comes from people who are not cis men. So I want to see it up in the spotlight.
Yeah, let's give it up for that.
So with nightgowns, it's really just, it's a great show, hopefully, and there doesn't need to be too much explaining of who can do drag or what it's about because you see it in front of your eyes. Really nothing is a clearer testament to what all of this is about than a lip-sync performance that has been chosen and planned with love and executed flawlessly, and that's what a drag show is all about.
You know, in my mind, you're sort of one of the best winners to carry on RuPaul's legacy in the sense of that you are instead of working within the system that is already laid out for you, you are out here creating space, taking risks, sort of pushing art to sort of the next level. And with the House of Velour, you're sort of carving out your own path, which it's been so impressive to see. Was that always sort of like you knew your post-Drag Race journey might skew a bit differently than past winners?
Only because I know I can't dance or sing, so or really tell jokes. So I knew I would have to do something else and make it work for me. So it's it's another one of those lessons about embracing your limitations, and I think that's opened up throughout my time doing drag all the things I wanted to do but couldn't do that I saw other queens doing. In my attempt to still make this work for me, I feel like I've uncovered some special stuff, and I'm thankful for the fact that I can't dance or death drop to save my life.
Before we go to Q&A, I want to also just touch upon this new docu-series that you're working on that sort of follows nightgowns and the different performers in the show. What is it like to work in this medium?
It's exciting, it's like creating. It's a docu-series, so it's not exactly reality television, but it's not completely dissimilar from the process of filming a reality show like Drag Race. So it was really exciting to be at the table in the planning phase, behind the cameras when we were filming, all those aspects to really feel like drag artists ourselves are having agency in how our stories get told. That was really, really exciting. And then this show itself, this has been a passion of mine for a long time because Nightgowns is a local show that people know about all over the world, but it's hard for people to see and experience necessarily, who don't live in New York or are not in a major city where we might tour. So I wanted to make sure that that kind of show, those kind of entertainment was available for people all over. So Nightgowns, the TV series, is gonna show everything that you see in a live show. Amazing performances in full, the lip sync, all the different pieces of it, filmed beautifully. The really famous music video director Sophie Muller came all the way from London to help film these performances because this was my special request, and I can't believe that she agreed to do it. But I thought no one actually knows how to capture performances set to music better than this one music video director whose every video she's ever created is like the most perfect music video. And so she came and watched our performances and was like, okay, yeah, I know how to capture that. And then we're also, so that's all the stuff that you get when you go see Nightgowns Live. Incredible performances, and a really diverse cast of drag artists. And then we're also showing the process behind the scenes, which you never see at a drag show. And that's sort of one of the appeals of getting to do a documentary hybrid form, or the appeal of reality TV. You get these stories from the lives behind, we're never really behind the makeup or behind the character, but us having value not just when we're costumed and painted and being entertaining. And those kinds of stories, those experiences, I think are really important to share.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Just sounds incredible. I'm gonna throw a Twitter question your way from
yes.
Stacy Foxy Art. How do you feel about smoke and mirrors being so creatively inspiring to other artists? And what's one thing you've learned from creating smoke and mirrors that you wish you knew beforehand?
Hi, Stacy. I love you and your art. This is very special, actually, because I know this person came to see the show in London and has already created, like, I think upwards of 5 pieces inspired by the show, which are just, that it makes me so happy to see people creating art. I mean, I love when people draw me and draw my costumes. I put a lot of work into them, and it's really special. It's like a cheerleading, like support, kindness. It's really like a communal effort to encourage someone by drawing them like that. But I especially love when people, like talking to artists who want to create their own ambitious project that has nothing to do with me, but is like their own fantasy, or other drag artists who are like, okay, I'm going to create my own one-person show, and I'm going to do video, like, I'm not going to steal your thing, but I'm going to do video elements too, and this and that and the other thing. I'm going to do a different costume for every number, and like that gets me excited, because I want what I do to make an impact for other artists. This is not just for me. I want everyone else to be learning the secrets of how to create opportunities like this for yourself, how to take full advantage of the ones that are thrown your way, and how to like create work in the midst of this world.
Yes, Stacy, we love you. Okay, we have 3 questions here in the audience. First question. Hi.
Hi, I've just got to say your show is absolutely incredible. I went to the show in London, and I can honestly say it was the highlight of my life.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming.
Now, I know you're gonna release some new dates in 2020
Yes.
for Europe, but I just wanted to know if you're thinking of going to like the Middle East. I live in Israel, and I know Tel Aviv will definitely welcome you with open hands.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the North American tour is going to finish up right at the beginning of December, end of November. And then in 2020, we're going to be going to Europe. Those dates are going to be announced very soon. They're coming together. And I hope that for the rest of the year, we'll be able to bring the show even further. I would really dream of going to the Middle East. I've been to Beirut several times to perform. I absolutely love it there. I went to Israel as a little kid. I would love to perform in places that not many drag artists get to go to. For me, it would be very special to bring this show to Moscow, which is a place that is very important to me and my family, but is also a place that is not easy to be queer. And I think in those places, getting to see queer people living so over the top and so loud would be really important. And I want to go and connect with those communities. So hopefully there'll be a chance to go even further afield with Smoke and Mirrors. It's all coming into the works. And it's exciting because I'm not working with a traditional drag management at this point in time. So it's really like me and my partner, we're like really figuring out how to do this business, how to take these drag shows on the road and make it a career. And we're learning new things every day. I hope we do have the opportunity to take it really far abroad.
Next question.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you to what extent you consider your craft to be performance art in the way that we understand that existing in fine art museum contexts.
Ooh, interesting. You tell me, what is performance art in a fine art museum context?
I would consider it to be the craft that you do to exist in a museum context, but I find it interesting because so often when we see drag performed, it's lumped in with sort of more theatrical types of performances.
Right.
So I was just wondering if you had ever thought, well, to what extent you consider it to live in museums, and if you had ever thought about bringing it to a museum.
Interesting. I think I performed in a museum once. It was like much too bright, for one. Like, I need a little more focused light here. I really proudly do not call what I do performance art or theater. I really am proudly doing drag. And I try to always research this is my nerdy whatever side, but research what drag has been, because the truth is it has already been all those things that performance art is trying to be. It has already been all those things that theater is trying to be. So it's like, I don't need a different name for it. Drag is really powerful, really historical. But I think to your point, like I'm so thankful that you said that. I know that to be able to have what I do, which is so often in history, even though there is that great tradition there, it has been relegated to small spaces and less opportunities because queer people are doing it. To be able to break that down and see queer artists doing queer art as performance art, as quote-unquote mainstream visual art or theater, that is really important. It's just my mission to make sure they don't stop calling it drag.
I mean, that being said, please hang this look in the Louvre like tomorrow. It's so major. We got one more question for you.
Thank you. Hi, you look absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you what kind of perhaps literature or fictional and non-fictional characters inspire your drag, and perhaps smoke and mirrors in general.
Ooh, so many. Of course, vampires from literature and film are a lifelong inspiration. Nosferatu is always like my biggest bald head inspiration, but a little glammed up. And I definitely, for this show specifically, I looked at a lot of illustration and visual art, specifically like graphic design and poster art from the history of theater and forms of pop theater too, like vaudeville, magic shows that were really popular at the turn of the century through the 30s. Early popular drag artists like Julian Elton. She was a huge celebrity and like makeup entrepreneur in New York, literally in the teens. And so I looked at those posters and those illustrations and those styles of presentation and tried to like bring them into something contemporary, because I really do see us right now as picking up kind of a lost thread of drag being heralded as a popular art form, and so we're kind of returning to that moment. And I wanted to reference that specifically with Smoke and Mirrors.
Thank you. Everybody, make sure to get your tickets now to Smoke and Mirrors, the North American tour. They are on sale, and let's please give it up for Sasha Velour. Thank you so much.
Thank you.